everyone, welcome to another awesome day of FileMaker training. I'm Richard Carlton, creator of FMTraining.tv, where every day we are doing great FileMaker training. And even when we're not doing great FileMaker training, we're dreaming of doing great FileMaker training. Let's talk about announcements and things that are coming up. I'm here just to kind of kick this off, then I'm going to let Calvin do this because he can do this better than I can. So the upcoming broadcast schedule looks like this. For those of you wondering what's going on, today is Calvin. Calvin's face would be here. Tomorrow's going to be Hansa, doing whatever Hansa does with performance tuning. It's where he puts NOS in your FileMaker engine, and then it goes really fast. If you've seen the Fast and the Furious, so that's very exciting. All right, so I'm going to move forward with Calvin. Calvin, operators are standing by. Are you ready to take control of the Starship? Yes.
Ready.
All right, so I'm going to pivot away from talking, but I wanted to thank everyone. And so, Calvin, I am going to disengage on that. I'm going to stop sharing. You have the bridge. So what are we doing today?
Yeah, so today we are looking at the let statement, the let function in FileMaker, and we're going to see how this is used, what it does, and then we're going to take a look into how we can use it to make our calculations better, more legible, more readable, and actually have an easier time writing calculations in FileMaker, and how we can use those calculations. We can use them in scripting, layout objects, or button bars and stuff like that. So that is what we are digging into. So I wanted to start off with the help for the let function. So here we have the let, and here's the statement that describes it. Let sets a variable or variables to the result of the specified expressions for the duration of the calculation or until the script exits or the file is closed. And so we can set these variables, and we'll see this format. We start the let, and then we can have multiple variables in here, as many as we want, sometimes just one. And then finally at the end, we can write a calculation referencing those variables. So it's really handy if you have a calculation that references a piece of data or a calculation or a field multiple times, and you want to reference that multiple times. This will really clean up the calculation. And so we have a description. It started in FileMaker 7. So as long as I've been working on FileMaker, it's been here. And it's really good to kind of look at the basic setup for how the let works. We see here this bracket opens to set our variables, and then it closes it. And you'll notice that each variable is separated by a semicolon. And then finally we end with our calculation. They do have some examples, but I'm not going to go through the examples because I didn't find them super useful. So let's go to my demo file, and we'll take a look at some ways to use let. So here's just a really basic app. We just have two fields, a date field and an age field. And I want you to take a look at this calculation that figures out the age. Now this is just a single line. If you're trying to, sometimes coders like to see how few lines they can use and call it coding golf or something like that. But I have no idea what's going on when I glance at this. If I wrote this calculation, which I did, and then I come back years later, like I write it now, and I glance at this, there's a date of birth, so I know we're doing something about the date of birth, and there's a current date. So I guess maybe we're figuring out an age. I'm guessing. But this is really hard to read. You're going, okay, the year of what, where did this, okay, the year of the current date minus the year of the date of birth minus this if, where does this end? So I'm not going to walk you through how that works, but I am going to walk you through a replacement for it. So let's go ahead, and I'm just going to copy this and say cancel, and I'm going to pull open my data viewer and add a new thing to watch. So here is my old calculation. And I still run into old calculations like this that I wrote where I didn't use a let, and I go through and I rewrite them. So here is my new calculation, and I'll walk you through how this one works. Now, it might be more lines than the first one, but it does spell things out a little bit better. So we can ignore the trigger. But here we have DOB, so date of birth, and we're referencing the date of birth field. I'm just going to select that so it puts the table occurrence in there. And then we have birth year, so that must be the year of the date of birth. The current year, which we're getting that out of the current date. Let's go ahead and uh, put current date. Also get current date. So we're getting the year out of the date of birth, year out of the current date, and then we're figuring out if the date's passed. So if the current date is less than the birthday, and you'll see that this is the month and day and year of the current year, because we're saying current year, but we're getting the month and day of the date of birth, then we'll say that it's passed. Then we're getting the current year minus the birth year, and then if the date's passed, then we're adding that in there as well. And so if the date of birth is not empty, we get the age, which is our calculation here. And this is essentially doing the exact same thing. But because we're not spelling it out, it's much harder to read. And let's see if it works. We'll just say evaluate. And let me go ahead and copy this. And I'll put it back in this one. So I'll just disable this, put this one in, and you'll see that our date works. I'll jump back a year. It's now 6. Jump back another year, and it's 7. Now, if I select or not today's date, but the 14th, because today is the 14th, Happy Valentine's Day, we'll see it's 7. If I do one day earlier, though, 7. One day later, though, it's set the birthday as one day later. So tomorrow it would advance to 7. It's 6 because that date hasn't 2/15/24 hasn't passed.
Mm-hmm.
So this is really where I find that the let really helps me to write a calculation that's much easier to come back and see what's going on and understand it and make adjustments if necessary. Now, in the case of the age, that's not really a function that's going to change very often, ever. And so this probably will work wherever I put it. But in some business logic, the logic changes over time, and we have to go in there and look at a let statement like this and make adjustments, which looking at this and making an adjustment is much more difficult than looking at this and making an adjustment. Do we have any questions before we look at some more examples?
I'll let people ask questions, but I have one.
Yeah.
Currently it looks like that you set the variables within the let function at the moment. Could you use global variables for it? Or do you have to set all the variables that you're going to use inside of the let function, if that makes sense?
Like, could you use global variables in a field
In
or in the
the
calculation just in general?
Yeah, inside of the calculation, because it said you said it wanted variables, so I assumed, oh, you would use global variables.
Yeah,
But
so
here
the
you're
use of
setting the variables, which is what I did not expect for some reason. So,
right. So this is a really kind of confusing thing that you brought up because we have local variables that you set in a script and and they last for the length of the script. Global variables that are set and they in a script or it can that are set and they are cleared out whenever you specifically clear them out or you close the file.
mm-hmm.
But then these are just a calculation variable that only exists in the calculation. So if we're setting these variables in the calculation itself, and we can only reference them in the calculation in
Mm-hmm.
this instance. And so if you set this in a script, let me go ahead and open up a script and set variable. So I'm going to set a variable. So within this variable, we're getting, and I'm going to do a global and say that we are setting, we're setting this variable. And I'm just going to press play. And then we'll jump back to our data viewer and look at the current. So we've got our age is 6. So we just used this calculation in here to set a variable. But if we continue to write this, so I'll just say show custom dialog. Now I can't reference any of these. I'm going to say DOB. And actually, because it doesn't see it as a variable, it's just going to show it as text. So that variable only lives inside the script. Now, interestingly, and I might be getting ahead of myself, you can use so you could reference global variables that you set in here. So let's say we say set variable, and I'm just going to say DOB for date of birth and grab date of birth here. And then we could go in here, and this might be something interesting if you haven't seen this. I'm going to do a find and replace. And I'm going to say replace let date of birth with my global variable. Replace. So there, it replaced it. And so now I'm referencing a global variable. Oops. Let's try that one more time. So now I'm referencing a global variable in the calculation. So you can reference global variables in there, and you can actually set global variables in there. So if we want to...
if you set like the birth year as a global variable inside of the calculation, you could call it elsewhere in the file?
Yeah, so if I say, so let's just leave this as it is, and I'm going to change age. We're already doing age. Let's do current year. So you can set a variable here within this calculation for just a regular variable. So now, oops. Now this current year is going to show up in my data viewer. So watch this. As soon as I set that, now we have current year in here. Now I never said set variable, I just set it in the let, which is a really handy feature for doing a lot of different things. I use it all the time. So now I'm setting a global variable because it has $2 signs. And you'll see, so that single $sign variable disappeared because the script ended. Now I set that age variable, and then it automatically also did the current year because I set it, and the current year as a local variable as well. And once I once the script ends, then those local variables disappear. So okay, that is a trick for the set variable calculation. Any other questions or any follow-up questions?
I don't see any. I think that makes sense. It's really interesting. I imagine you can do a lot of wild stuff with that, but I wouldn't even know how to even begin to approach that.
Yeah. So we'll take a look at that as we go. The next, any follow-up questions on the date calculation here that we set up? Oops, not this one.
This one here. I don't see any. If anyone asks them over like the next course couple minutes, I will interrupt, but I don't see any at the moment.
Okay. So that was one that I just did, pulled out of my one that I use a lot. So what's another option that we could use? That was something that you'd want to store. And this is something you could package that as a custom function, or you'd save that as a field calculation most likely. Here's another calculation that I don't have my old code for, or my old calculation for. Well, let's go ahead and look at this one. This one's specifically for scripting. I'm just going to call it date range. I'll say set variable. and I'll call it date. Let's do it global so we can see it, date range. And we'll put that in here. And I don't have a start and end. So I'm going to put start date and end date. There we go. And now I need to put my start and end here. So we'll say let start and let end. So here now I'm giving, I'm taking a start and end. Those are the only two parameters that I'm giving it, only two variables. And then I'm using that to set up a find. And so I'm going to go say, okay, a date range for a find. So let's go ahead and set our, I'll create a new layout for this one and call it date range. And let's go ahead and grab our fields, start and end, put them right there. Put the drop-down calendar on them. And let's go ahead and we'll do it script triggers. And we'll say on object save, do the date range. And then let's go ahead and do a layout variable. So insert merge variable. And we'll call this one date range. And I'm going to give this object a name. I'll just call it date range. And then
Wait,
here,
you can name objects directly from there?
you can. So in your
I thought you had to go
object,
to the little field in the side.
yeah, so that's the old
Oh!
way, but you can also do it over here in the object tree, which that was one of the things I love about the object tree.
I did not know that. Sorry, that was like wild. I still name them by going to the little thing. So
It's amazing watching somebody else do, I have this happen watching training videos with other people and realizing some little thing that I don't do and or some feature that they use and I don't use it, and like it just completely can change the way you do things. So here, now I have this. So what this calculation does is it gives me a date range for performing a find. So let's pretend that we have, I think actually I built a sample file that uses this for putting a find wizard in your app. So here, if I remove an end date, it's just going to find anything greater than or equal to the start date. If I only put an end date, it's going to put in, say, less than or equal to anything in the end date. If I set both, it's going to do a date range. So it does all of that. And one time I wrote it out without a let statement, and it was very confusing and hard to read. And it was just essentially a really long case statement. So I took that case, replaced it with these variables, the start and end. And you can kind of see how this case statement was written. And the and you could imagine that instead of having start and end, we're referencing fields. And sometimes people don't put a return in their case statements, and it could be just one long, obnoxious calculation.
Like a giant run-on sentence.
Yeah, like a giant run-on sentence. Exactly. It's like like reading a conversation between two people without returns in it. I was reading an old book the other day, and they had a conversation between two people and it was all in one paragraph, and it was really confusing to figure out who was saying what. But here, so we put in our white space. So when you spread things out like this, we call it white space, and it really helps us to read what's going on. So let helps us put in that white space. We're going to go ahead and run this one more time. And so that's another instance where in the first one, we're doing an age, which is probably a field calculation. Here we're doing a date range, which would be something more that we would run in a script. Do we have any follow-up questions on this example of using the calculation, the let calculation?
Not particularly. I don't exactly know what case does, to be honest with you, but I don't know if we
Oh,
want to talk
so
about that real
case,
fast.
yeah, we could do that real quick because it's pretty simple. So one thing also to notice here is that in the age let statement, we're doing all the work in calculating up here in the variables, figuring things out. And then the calculation itself is really simple.
Mm-hmm.
But in the date range, our variables are really simple. We're just entering the start and end date, and then we're doing a lot of work in the calculation itself.
Mm-hmm.
So the case is like an else if. So the case is kind of saying if start is empty and end is empty, empty. Else if the start is empty and end is not empty, do less than end. Else if,
Oh,
you can
okay.
think of each line as an else if.
Got it. So basically, every time you hit a return, or not even return, I guess, but a semicolon, it
Yeah,
becomes
so
an else if.
it goes in condition, result, condition, result,
Got it.
condition, result. Now imagine trying to read this in a single line, which you could put it. There's no rule that it has to be in. There has to be returns there. So I'll admit that I have written case statements that were all in a single line. It's hard to read, even if it's a little faster to throw together sometimes.
That makes sense.
Good question, though. Yes, sometimes we speed past things and people might not know what they are, like a case statement.
And if in case the first condition is completed, the second will not be calculated?
Yes. So if the first one's true, then everything else is ignored. So sometimes you have to make sure they're in the right order. And if I'm having a problem where I can't figure out the right order, I will actually put in something like this. So it's really easy for, oops, let me open this. So here, case false is false. So then it's really easy for me to move things around if I need to move those around.
Oh.
And I'm not sure that it matters so much in this case, but I really like being able to move those around if necessary.
Follow-up question, how would you think about the order? Like,
How would I think about the order?
yeah. I guess it would depend on what you're trying to accomplish, right?
Yeah, it depends on what you're trying to accomplish. In this case, and we're kind of getting sidetracked on case when that's not really what we're talking about, but that's okay. So in this case, if multiple items can be true, then you want to figure out which one takes priority. So if and sometimes it's just how you phrase it. So if say a if you're testing to see if a number is over a certain amount and you say like a stat, maybe a status, let's just write one real quick. So I'm just going to use the data viewer, go back to watch, and here we'll say case, and we'll use our let statement to get in here. Let and what we're going to say status, or how about a score equals, and we'll say 100%. And then here in the case statement, we're going to say if score equals 100%, then we'll say great. And then we'll say if score is greater than or equal to 50, well, 50, we're going to say needs improvement. And if a score is equal to or greater than 90, we're going to say, good job.
Oh, but you'd want to put 90 last because technically 100
Yeah,
would
so
be.
somebody just got 90 and I'm going to say evaluate. Something went wrong. Okay, I just need to remove that. So I'm going to say evaluate. I need one more parenthesis. Evaluate. I did 90 and I need improvement. I thought 90 was really good. So what needs to happen here is I need to move these around. So now 90 is good job. And so in this case, you'll see that the first one, they're evaluated top to bottom, and whichever is the first to be true gets priority. And so you just want to think about whatever your logic is that you're working on needs to follow that.
Okay, that's a really good example, by the way. That very cohesively
Thank
explains
you.
what it does and what priority you're looking for.
Yeah, yeah. So, but just thinking, whenever you run into that, sometimes you can see how multiple things can be true. Okay, where's my cheat sheet? Over here. Any follow-up questions on case?
Dimok asked a little bit before you did the example. In the case, it's a question of priority, question mark. Do you think you confirmed that it is priority
Yep.
that
Any
matters the most?
any other questions about the examples that we looked at?
Not at the moment, I think. So,
Okay. Let's go ahead and open up FM starting point. I grabbed a copy of this right before. And so we're going to take a look at this. Now, let is used in FM starting point some, but a bit of the time it's not. So let's go ahead and take a look at a calculation here. So we're going to take a look at this calculation here. And this is a pretty simple calculation, but you'll notice that every time we reference something, we're referencing it twice. There's not a lot of white space, and we can pretty much figure out what's going on, but let's see if we can make it a little better. And so here's my data viewer. And let's go ahead and paste this in. We'll say evaluate. Oh, and you know what? I need to put in the table occurrence in all of these. So let me just do that real quick. Now see, if you pull this, this is another reason why using a let is better. Once you work on, and you can tell that this particular calculation was written in managed database because it doesn't have those table occurrences in the name itself. They evaluate. I probably missed something. There we go. So now it's much harder to read even now. So let's change this to a let. We'll say let, and we'll put our calculation in. So we're still using our same calculation. And just to reference it, because I'll start changing things later, I'm going to put it over here, comment it out just so I can make sure I don't go off. So here, let's do this. Let's go, we'll say, we'll just give these real basic names like line 1 equals, and or maybe I should call this one, yeah, we'll just call it line 1. Line 1 equals account. Now, one thing I didn't show you is that you can actually you can name a variable twice. So here, I am setting the variable as account, and then I'm setting it again and changing it. And I can actually reference the first one. So let's just grab this and put it in here. And I'll say if is empty, line 1, then have line 1. If is empty, then empty, else line 1 with a return. So here I'm setting the variable twice. Now let's go to the next one, and I don't need that. And we'll call this one line 2. And we'll grab the second line here. did the same thing. And again, we don't need all this. We'll just say line 2. Line 2. Oops. And actually, remember we wanted to. So what I find helpful is the first time we want to, if we want to reference a field, I like to just reference it by itself. And so here I will just have its own spot where it's referenced. And then we'll go line 3. Now I think, so you'll see that this kind of went running on. I guess this is all because this is all one line. And so let's go ahead and put that in. So our line 3, maybe we want to separate this out. So I'm going to call this one city equals, and then we'll just stick city in there. State equals, and we'll stick the state province in there. And then zip or the postal code, whatever we want to call it. I'll just call it zip because that's easy. And now we have line 3. We're going to reference all of these. So if it's empty, city, then we will put city in. Else, next is state. We'll put the state in. And last is zip. Oops. What did I just do there? Zip, and this one's state as well. I guess we assume that the zip is always there. That's interesting. Okay, so let's evaluate. And are those random text in there? Let's go ahead and say monitor. And we'll look at this address. Okay, the address just looks bad because there's text in there.
Okay, so it's pulling actual stuff out of there.
Yeah. So that wasn't a mistake. So here we can see how this looks, and this might look a little better. I'm not going to say it's 100% better, but it's getting there. So now let's go ahead but our calculation is still referencing those fields. So let's go ahead and change this. Now I wouldn't use these ifs back and forth. I would just say list. I'll go line 1, line 2, line 3. And just so we can see them side by side, I'll put a couple returns in and say evaluate. And but the problem here is that
paragraph returns. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, because the returns are in there. So let's just remove those returns. Try that again. And we missed. So the second one has a suite in it. So where's the suite coming from? I guess we've got
Billing Street 2, I think.
Yeah,
there's a Billing Street 1
Oh,
and a
so
Billing Street 2.
right. Billing Street 2 is actually going to be line 3. So line 3 equals, let's do that one more time. Line 3. And here, let's say, okay, so there we have our, and I don't need this return, and now we need to make this one line 4.
4, yeah, okay.
Yeah. So let's see how this works. Okay, so now we see we're getting the same result in both these cases. So I'm going to go ahead and just delete all of this because it doesn't look like I need it anymore. That's great. Well, you know what else I can do? So it's looking better. It's looking better. But let's change it just a little bit. Let's say instead I want to set my variables all at the top of the inputs. I want them at the top, and then the calculations I want at the bottom. So it just is easier to read that way. So we've got line 1, line 2. Where'd line 3 go? Line 3. Now let's say evaluate. Something's missing here. Oh, I need to remove this. Evaluate. Okay, so we're still good. That looks pretty good. Can we make this look a little better? So we could do, we could name these a little bit differently, but I think now that I'm looking at this, we might only, because these are just single inputs, the line 1, line 2, line 3, I don't think we even need this.
I was
Let's
about
try
to
it.
ask what that was for exactly. Is that for if it's
Well,
empty?
yeah, if it's empty. So if you're doing it this way, because they're not using a list, you have to do it the way that it's described that it is. Otherwise, you don't. So here, I just tried that again. So this, I just did that again. And now we have line 1, line 2, line 3, line 4. It's getting us the same result. Now I think, so you'll see here, we've got our 6 inputs, line 1, 2, 3, city state zip, and then city state zip becomes our line 4. And then we just say list all of the lines together. Now let's say one of those lines is empty. We'll just remove that input. Evaluate, or let's say there isn't. Let's say that field's empty. Evaluate, there's no gap in it. Let's do this one. Evaluate, it's still right.
Got it.
So we eliminated some of those ifs and else ifs. So we went from this calculation here, which you can kind of look at and see what's going on, to this one here where you can see all the inputs referenced once, and then you see that it's just a list of these 4 lines. And if the line's empty, it's just there won't be anything there. And we can see we got city state zip there. So I think using the let kind of explains, it can tell you what's going on. And you can even say name and street and what was a apartment or something.
Mm-hmm.
And then get those looking a little more legible instead, because sometimes line 1, line 2, line 3 isn't exactly telling us a lot. So do we have any questions about rewriting a script to make it a little more easy to read with a let like this?
I don't see any questions about that specifically. I do see another question. It might be worth talking about the semicolon in front of the line versus at the end of the line in let.
Yeah, so each line needs a semicolon. So each of these variables needs a semicolon between them. And you can put those in front or behind. Obviously, you can't have 2 of them, but I'll just show you if I add one there and one here, then it still works. It just needs to be in there. It's a matter of preference in reading it. So I like them at the beginning,
Well, because
and
otherwise I think semicolons tend to kind of disappear and then you're like, did I have one there or no?
yeah, and even sometimes I'll just put something at the top here that I'm not really going to do anything with. So I might call it counter. So, and so that you'll notice that I was moving them up and down and changing the order a bit in this example. And so that's one of the reasons we might do something like that, where I feel like it's easier to read and move things around if it's in the front. And because all of these ones that I'm working with have a semicolon in front of them, I can move them into whatever order that I want. The only problem will be is if I move this line 4 up here, because then it doesn't know what city, state, and zip are because they're declared down here.
Okay, so you have to list the variables in order if you're going to use the variables for another variable.
Yeah, you can't reference a variable that's not already set.
Makes sense.
Good questions, good comments. Any other ideas there? Any other questions?
Not that I particularly see, so.
Okay. So the another place that I like to use the let statement is in this particular area. This is going to be really basic. But sometimes, am I the only one who's had a hard time writing a calculation for the hide feature? Because usually one is true and zero is false, or one would be show, zero would be hide. But in the hide feature, actually one means hide, and something that's true means it needs to be hidden. Something that's false needs to be shown.
Yeah, it's a sentence, but like how the sentence is constructed makes it a double negative.
Right, exactly. So this one's not super complicated, so we'll just go through it
Yeah,
real
people are
fast.
saying 100% agree. Oh, I suck at that, lol. You need to think backwards and upside down.
Yeah. So I will say uh, note is selected. That is actually where this is for hiding. So I'm going to say, see, I'm getting it wrong already. Note is so I'm going to change it to note is selected. See if this works. So note is selected, and I'm going to have two variables in here. One is hide, and I'm going to make that one a 1. One is show. I'm going to make that a 0. And I'm going to say if note is selected, then show, else hide. Now and let's see if it actually worked. Okay, it did work. So you see there, I was able to take this, and you'll notice I had to reverse what it was saying, because this is how we think about things. Okay, the node is selected, I want it to show. And then here, instead of doing having something that's true or false, I'm telling it to show or hide. And this is kind of explaining what's going on. And I've used the putting show and hide as variables to help me figure things out with these. And the other cool thing about this is you can copy this and then use it for conditional formatting and just reverse it. You'll say, okay, with a conditional formatting, I want it to be true and it's shown, and zero and to hide is 0. So in that way, the conditional formatting calculation and the hide calculation can be the same, and you don't have to do it two different ways. We just do different variables for the show and hide.
That's really clean, is what that is. Yeah, people are
Yeah.
like, oh, nice.
So I really, that is one of my favorite let things there. So we looked at lets in field calculations, in scripts, in layout objects. Do we have any questions before I show my last demo? We only have 6 minutes left.
No questions. People are saying thank you for sharing that. So
Okay. So my
we'll let you
last
launch into the
thing
last demo. Yep.
that I want to show is these widgets. So you might recognize these as being similar to Nick Hunter's widget. So I actually took this from him, but rewrote it to all be contained in a button bar. So these are just two different button bars, and I call them the line 3 button bar and the line 2 button bar, because one's 1 line and one's 2 lines and one's 3 lines. We've got a label, a line 2 and line 3, a label, and just a line 1. So let's go ahead and look at these. So we, of course, use a let statement to figure these out. And here, where I'm just giving it the current date, but usually I'm not using the current date. I'm specifying a date field. So we could do let's do the date of birth. We'll change that. And then so line 1 is my label. Line 2, I'm grabbing the month and day. And then line 3, I'm grabbing the year. And then I'm going through the same, I'm setting the text size for the label to be small and to be a different color. I want it gray. And then line 2, I just have a note in here. Like, where's the formatting for line 2? Line 2 is being formatted by the layout object. So I'm not going to, so that'd be over here in the pane, in the formatting pane. And then line 3, I'm making it black. And then I just list my lines, line 1, line 2, line 3. And so let's go ahead. And you'll notice that we're using these text functions. I should have brought these up last time when we were talking about those text functions. And so let's go ahead and go to browse mode. So you'll see we've got our date here. Let me just copy this date of birth over. Go to browse mode. And so this is a nice way to display the date. You can even hide the date field behind it, so you can click on it to change things. You'll notice that we're changing things around, and it's the button bar automatically updates. This is a great way to display useful information that we want to point out, that we want to draw the people's attention to. I think in FM starting point, we're actually doing that in invoices. Yeah, so we've got some of these here. But you'll notice in this case, these are just fields in a label. So we got a field and a label, and which is great. But if we don't need to interact with it, if it's more like a widget that we're just looking at, then this is another option that we have. In the 2-line option, we're actually using line. We say that there's a second line, but there's no input for line 2. Actually, there is an input for line 2, so I must be just skipping it or something. But here, line 2 here is what we're using, and I just have the line 3 information there as well if we wanted to use the line 3 for whatever reason. But you'll notice that I'm making it black, and the black and the size are controlled by the pane as well. So here I just have line 1 and then our label here. I'll make that 200. Go to browse mode. And so you'll see that it's referencing that item. So it's another way of using the let to display information in a button bar and get that information communicated on here. Do we have any questions about that?
Not about that. We have a comment, which
Okay.
NJ, here is one for you. It might be too complex to stream. Set a variable name, global variable using let.
A global variable? So I think we did that already. So we use let to set a global variable right here.
Yeah, if you mean something else, NJ, which you might, because the way you're phrasing that, then say that differently, please.
So let's go ahead and just make this. So we're setting global variable of current year. Oops. And I'm just going to put the current year as the result and say global variable. And so I'm going to go bring my data viewer here, see current. There's really nothing current. And I'm going to run this. And so here's our global variable 2024. And we can see current year right here. If I clear this out, delete my global variable, it's empty. Run the script again, it sets it again. So this is setting that global variable in a let statement. And if you look at the audit log, which we didn't have time to look at today, that is extensively using the let statement to set global variables. And then when records are created, those auto-enter calculations are referencing the global variables that are then used to populate the fields.
Yeah. NJ says, I think I will leave this one for another time, but what I meant was construct a statement in let, then use evaluate to make a variable named by a parameter.
Oh, okay. So to do that, I use a custom function called assign.
Oh.
There's an assign I use it usually for what is that? For setting local variables, but there's an option for doing global variables as well. But essentially, so I guess what we could do is say, I'm not exactly sure the use case that you're thinking of. So set global variable from script parameter. So we'll say set variable, and we'll say let, and we'll see if we can do this. I use a custom function, so I don't normally actually mess with this sort of stuff. So script parameter equals get script parameter, and then we'll say evaluate. And then we'll say let. Let's try this. Right. Let. I might be going a little too. So our variable is going to be our calculate. This is going to be what we're passing to it, right?
Got it. So you're stacking the lets.
Yeah. And then our result is just going to be 1. 1. And here, I'm going to want the script parameter. So go. Not going to let me. Oh, let's go. Let's try that. Okay, so let me save that. So now let's say our script parameter is, we'll just run our script. We'll just call it test, perform script, set global variable, and we're just going to call this one global equals, and then let's do date of birth, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we're going to, so let's cross our fingers and see if this works, because I'm not sure that it will. Script
Worth a
debugger?
shot.
Yeah. So here's our global variable equals 129 there. We don't have any global. Let's see. It didn't work. So let me just take one look at this. Script parameter, let evaluate. There's our expression. So our expression is let script parameter, which was that global
Mm-hmm.
thing. Let's go ahead and do this so I can see everything. I'll say set variable script parameter get script parameter and try this one more time. I don't think this will fix it. Oh, there we go. We got our script parameter.
Oh, there you go.
But we didn't actually set the global variable. But what we can do here is say watch and cancel. So let's just open this. Let's specify, and now let's run this. List usage is not allowed in this function.
That sounds like what it's mad about, but I'm not exactly sure what that means.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and go back to watch and put this in here and say, okay. Oh, and let's go to our global script parameter. Evaluate. So there's something wrong about this. Oh, I see what's wrong. There we go. Let's try this. All right, there we go. Cancel.
It's always
So
a
the
spare
thing
set
is,
of
I'll
brackets somewhere.
let, if you're using evaluate, you don't get the errors that you would hope you would get sometimes. So let's go ahead and try this one more time. You got to remove this global. I'm just going to remove all these calculations. And the other ones don't matter. And we'll say, so what we want to see is this global variable from here.
There it goes. Well,
yeah, so it's maybe we need to say get as date or something. But but we're setting that global variable from the script parameter. So there's these custom functions called assign that really make this really simple. And if we want, we could do a session on those, though I'm told they're archaic and we should be using JSON instead.
Well, I think that depends on the opinion of the developer in question. So
True. Well, thank you everyone for
thank you very much,
being here
Calvin.
for Let.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for coming. Thank you so much, Calvin, for doing this. This is a really easy. Yep. Thanks heaps. Great work. Learned a lot. Thank you, Calvin and Margaret, and also Richard, who is currently not in the room, but I will let him know. Good luck with the kittens, Top Cat. Good luck with the surgery recovery, Larry. Everyone have a good evening, and I will see you tomorrow.
Got a report of an individual up here who may be a FileMaker license. Well, it's potentially expired. Look at the back of that car right there. Looks like the FileMaker license has expired. Sir, I need you to step out of the vehicle. Sir, step out of the vehicle. Sir.